discriminated against because of their gender. I don't try to compare if their issue is as bad as my issue. I just fight for them. And when you fight for people, they join your team. I never imagined 10 years ago that some of my favorite people in the world to train would be police officers. Have you heard my voice?
Yes.
You see, because I knew that police don't like training, they don't like diversity, they don't like outsiders, and they got guns. But people aren't prepared for someone who is come armed with God's purpose and His love and His power. And when you are armed with that, you can change the heart of men. I have had training sessions with protesters and police in the same class. There are some of us that believe that we are powerful enough that if we just oppose them violently, like they're bringing violence upon us, that's the solution. I can promise you it's not. How many of you are familiar with Cincinnati's collaborative agreement? Right. That is it's an example for the nation. But let me tell you what happened. After we got the collaborative agreement passed and we felt good about it, you know what the police did? They sat down for 5 years. They went into depolicing for 5 years and crime went up by 30%. It wasn't until a black man that was the husband of a school board member had gotten shot in his front yard that the chief of police then told the police, y'all got to go back to work. There is no way for us to make progress unless we make it together. But I can tell you that God is able to bring justice, and love is not a passive thing, but a powerful thing. This book that I wrote called Diversity Conversations, I had procrastinated for 15 years. People kept asking me, Eric, when are you going to write a book? And I would laugh because I thought, you know, I'm ADD. I'm never going to sit down long enough to write anybody's book. But then all of a sudden I watched the Arab Spring happen in Egypt, and I watched kids dying in the streets. This book helps us to become critical thinkers about diversity. This book talks about the 3 conversations that we have. All over the country right now, people are saying that they don't know how to talk to each other. They don't know how to understand each other. And I'm telling you, so often we believe that because we are people of color that we're already there. We have to recognize that we have prejudices and biases. We don't have oftentimes the power to negatively affect other people's lives. But we do have some things that we need to work on as well. This book, I've sold over 12,000 copies. Some police departments are making it required reading. I tell you, I've had diversity training classes with protesters and police in the same class. The protesters thought they were in there to be on my side, to teach the police. But I said, no, all of us have to learn. And I've had a couple of protesters that have decided to become police officers as a result of going through our training. I've got my own studio, I've got my own record label, I've got several rappers, and I've got, my kids are doing music. I'm not trying to just get kids off the street. I'm trying to make hit records. You see, because what I believe is that music is the language of this generation. I believe if we're going to change our nation, we have to begin by being relevant to our children. We cannot keep coming to our children with old people's strategies for a young generation that wants to be about change. And so I think there's some opportunity for us to begin to be innovative and creative. God showed me something. He said, Eric, what are you waiting for? You see, we are waiting. We are too often a passive people that don't have a strategy, that are waiting for somebody to ride in on a white horse and save us. I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but nobody is going to ride in and save us but us. And I believe that we have to use the mind and the gifts and the talents that God has given us to make a difference in the world. We need to establish a coalition for economic and social justice. In other words, we've got to go get the money. But we've got to go get the money for a purpose. Build this coalition with Jewish people, with Muslims, with the Latino community, with white people of conscience. You see, because I believe that we can pull together a coalition for win-win solutions we can amass money that we then reinvest back into our people. You see, if you don't have the money, then you're always waiting on somebody else to invest in your vision. We can bring about change, that we can make a difference in the world, that we don't have to perpetually be victims. It hurts me when I see young black men dying. But I can tell you, when I go in and teach, this is going to sound tough. It's going to sound tough to us. But I can tell you from firsthand experience that the shooting that we see police officers against unarmed African Americans is the exception to the rule. There's a small minority of police officers that do that. The vast majority of them are almost Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. There is a problem though. They stay silent too often when others do wrong things. There's another problem, that because of fear, sometimes they shoot out of fear and make mistakes. We don't have anything to address that, so we don't know what to do. We have to begin to embrace people in a way that they would come to us with honesty. I taught a class of police officers. There was a detective, that head detective that was in my class. He loved the class. He went home, he read 3/4 of my book that evening, and he came back the next day. He said, Eric, he said, man, I love that class so much. Why? Because I respected him. I had empathy for the challenge and the difficulty of their job, and I challenged them around their implicit biases and other things. But he began to tell me a story that I had never heard before. He said, Eric, when John Crawford got killed in Walmart, he said that was wrong. It's a white police officer. He came to me, he said, when I came back, he said, I told one of my fellow police officers that that was wrong. He said, no, it wasn't. He said, I told him, you wouldn't say that if it was your son. He said to me, yes, I would. He said, then I knocked him out. Have any of you ever heard that, or ever even imagined a scenario where a white police officer would knock another one out because he thought he was wrong about race? You see, we have to understand the power that God gives us. When I walk into a room, I know that the love that's within me is going to be transformative on the hearts of people that are listening. Because this is what I'll live and die for. I was created to be a bridge builder. And so as a former athlete, you know, I sat on the bench all the time in grade school and in middle school. And in high school, I got cut from the basketball team. And I had to keep working and keep working and keep working. Then I walked on the college team. And I knew that my job, my first year, was just to cheer for the rest of the team. That's what I was up doing. But I'd be thinking in my mind, Coach, let me in the game. Coach, let me in the game. I promise you that right now, this is the way that I feel. That I want to be let in the game. Black people of consciousness and of wisdom need to be let in the game because our nation needs us right now. How many of you know that we've lost confidence in our leadership? We don't want to find ourselves being ignorantly trapped on one side of the equation without the ability to understand some of the legitimate points of view that are different than the ones that we have. Again, my name is Eric Ellis. I love you all. I love my people. I love all people, and I think we can make a difference.
God bless you.